Hi, thank you very much, Chair, and welcome to Minister Simon Harris and to Minister Niall Collins. Great to have you here with us today, and with fantastic news, getting our staff and students back to college in September, that 105 million, I mean, that's just true commitment, I suppose, to show that the government sees this as an essential service, as you've noted very clearly, and I especially welcome the 23 million. I know, Minister, that we've done a lot with the SUSI consultation, as you've spoken about earlier, about ensuring that our students can have equal access and that there's fair access when they're looking at doing further in higher education studies. The breakdown there, as you've mentioned, and I'm on the mental health subcommittee as well, the first one ever here in the Oireachtas, and we did hear from student groups and about the importance and the impact, I suppose, to mental health, particularly for students having to work from home. And as you said, it's been a tough year. The thing you love about college is being able to be in your lectures and, having those inspiring and passionate lectures. And I'm sure they're trying to be as inspiring and passionate as possible in an online way, but it's just not exactly the same. So it's very good to hear that you had this commitment to open up. I suppose just a couple of the other things that I'd like to mention is just on the Student Assistance Fund, the financial support. I think from NUI Galway, like the previous funding that you had, Minister, that funded nearly 4,000 laptops, I think, in that particular university. So, there has been an impact. I spoke with the Student Union president there during the week. And I mean, also when it comes to the mitigating disadvantage, I think it is really important that we're looking at how we support all groups and vulnerable groups to have access to third level. And in particular, I suppose, also about the apprenticeship programme, how there's so many other opportunities, not just, I suppose, through our colleges and university system, but through further education. And that earn and learn option, I think, is something that is available. And you can get up to NFQ level. We had QQI in with us earlier this week, Minister, speaking about the options and how they're working very closely with SOLAS. You've mentioned there under summer provision that the universities and campuses and our colleges will be opening up to allow apprentices to, I suppose, their courses, practicals, I think, themselves over the summertime. Just, I suppose, one or two of the other points that I'd like to ask maybe would just be on the apprenticeship programme. I think we have about 60 courses at the moment. I know that we're planning another 18, but you might, if you have an update on that, maybe let us know a little bit just about that rollout of those programmes. Just secondly then, the West is leading the way, Minister, and I know you were down in Galway there during the week, but it's fantastic to see UNICOV, funded by Science Foundation Ireland, that's been led by NUI Galway, and that's sort of a randomised sort of clinical study that's been conducted, I suppose, on the rapid pilot antigen testing, and just delighted as well to see Galway Roscommon Education Training Board being one of those 5 ETBs that was selected as well to look at those sort of rapid diagnostic tests, antigen tests. I suppose the questions just in relation to that would be just on the return to campus that you've mentioned, along with the apprentices, it's the researchers. But the impact to research, particularly for international and national funded research, I mean, it's been an impact all over the world with COVID and the lockdown, but just in terms of extensions for researchers, there's a lot of anxiety, I'm sure, about trying to meet all the deadlines that they have to meet when they're dealing with their research. But just if you had any information on extensions to research. And I suppose just finally, it's just a reminder for vaccination. Yes, 18 to 24-year-olds. So they can log on now, vaccine.hsc.ie, register now, and, along with participating pharmacies as well, and they can access the mRNA. The rollout of that is so crucial for us to be able to, as you said, open in line with public health guidelines in September. Garmagas.
Okay, thanks, Senator Dolan, and thank you for. It's good to see you in Galway the other day, and good to be back over in the West and able to meet people in real life rather than just on Zoom. On the issue of the SUSI review, just to thank you for the work you've done in highlighting that. I can tell you that we received over 250 submissions via the public consultation process, and that was from a wide range of organisations, many working with students, many parents, but also work groups in our country working with vulnerable people and working with people at risk of poverty with ideas on how we could improve the scheme. We've also received over 9,000 survey responses as well, so a very, very significant volume. The steering group, which has student representatives on it, university representatives, but also Department of Social Protection reps, my own department reps, are working their way through that, and it's expected that review will be completed this autumn, and it will inform our policy priorities for the estimates process. You referenced the laptops and the free laptop scheme we ran last year, which really worked very, very well. I have met, and I'm sure many colleagues have met, lots of students who benefited from the laptop scheme, which we ran in third level. I expect to be in a position to make a further announcement next week on a new scheme for additional free laptops. And myself and Minister Collins will have details on that next week. I'll ask Minister Collins, who's leading for us on the apprenticeship scheme, just to come in on the apprenticeship action plan and your questions there. Just on Unicov, just to say that's working really, really well. I want to thank Dr. Breda Smith, the public health lead for Midwest, over in Galway, actually, who's leading the charge on that. Students can now go to the dedicated website where they can actually register if they're in Trinity, UCD, Galway, or UCC. They can register online as well. I'm delighted now that there's 5 more sites in place, including one in your own region. On the issue of researchers, we did provide quite a significant amount of additional funding to help with research extensions, and if that's required again, we certainly will provide that as well. That is, in my view, a very pure COVID cost, and the government needs to meet what are legitimate COVID costs. Delays in research are not the fault of the researcher or the institution, it's the fault of COVID. And we have worked very closely with the research community to try and address any required extensions, and we'll continue to do so. Could I ask Minister Collins to come in, Chair?
Thanks. Just to address Senator Dolan's question in relation to apprenticeships, as committee will be aware, we presently have 61 apprenticeship schemes which are up and running, and we have a further 18 in development, and they're at various stages in the development process. Members will be aware that there's a number of phases that an apprenticeship has to go through to be formalised. So what we will do is we will circulate to committee, we'll get you a note with an update as to the status of each of these apprenticeships that are in development by way of information purposes for yourselves. We're continually being contacted, we're continually engaging with interested parties in relation to development of new apprenticeships. I was down in the west of Ireland myself about 2 weeks ago in Clonbur in Petersburg, where we launched the Horticulture Apprenticeship Programme, which is tree surgery for people who don't have the Latin skills. There was huge interest in that. It's a real growth sector, obviously, with which is linked hugely to our planning requirements in terms of climate change and the whole environment, and obviously linked into some of the significant weather events that we've had to endure over the last number of years, where you have a significant number of trees that have come down, and there's a huge demand for tree surgeons, qualified tree surgeons. There was, just to give you another flavour, I met with a group in Limerick through our Midwest Regional Skills Manager, Joe Ledden, who were interested in progressing an apprenticeship in relation to cyber security, and a lot of industry players, for example, Dell, are very invested in that. So we have a lot going on in terms of development. Got an inquiry recently, for example, from a number of golf professionals. You know, each golf club has a golf professional, and they're looking at trying to advance an apprenticeship scheme there where they take on apprentices also. So lots of interest, wide and varied. But we'll get you the committee. We'll get Chair. We'll get each. We'll get you a note with an update on the status of development of what we have in development. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister. Great to see the arboriculture all right down in Petersburg and Galway. Excellent. And I know as well you're probably delighted with the application going in for the, seeing the applications coming in. And I know Minister Harris as well, for the Connacht Ulster lines that was submitted, I think this week or last week. Just very quickly acknowledge, and thank you, Chair, for the latitude here, but just the active consent programme that's been rolled out. I mean, we're getting our staff and students back to college, but we're going to be getting them back to, a college that's going to be a safe environment in many, many ways, along with public health, but also ensuring that we're training our staff and students in terms of active consent. I think that's really crucial in those surveys. As far as I'm aware, Minister, that's been rolled out next year. You might have time to comment on it now, but perhaps at a later stage during the committee. Thank you so much.
I'll give Minister Harris a few seconds just to comment on that if you want to.
Well, thanks very much. I was delighted to be in Galway the other day with Minister Hildegard Naughton for the launch of the Active Consent programme, where we've managed to fund now Ireland's first ever digital hub, effectively a website with a resource for staff and students in consent. Sexual harassment is not confined to third level, but third level should be leading in this area. And the work being done by the Active Consent Programme in NUI Galway is world class. And we're now going to have a resource where we'll be able to train and support students in sexual consent and staff in sexual consent, and that's going to roll out from the start of the new academic year. Along with, you'll be aware that I wrote to every institution in Ireland to ask them to all publish an individual action plan on sexual harassment for their own institution. Don't just hide behind or under national guidelines, but actually say, what are you going to do in your campus to have a zero tolerance approach to sexual harassment? Really pleased that all those action plans are now submitted. And on the Technological University for Connacht Ulster, delighted to see that the International Advisory Panel are in town virtually and are meeting people in the region. I know they met stakeholders the other day and I had a brief opportunity to speak with them yesterday. Very, very much hoping that we will have a technological university for the West Northwest in 2022, but subject to a lot of work that needs to be done between now and then, but a very exciting development.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Senator.